Hello, everyone.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, and we are back in the saddle once again for another season. And I have with me comic creator Preston Poulter. Again, I think this is the fourth or fifth time we've done this at this
I
point.
think
So
so.
welcome
Yeah.
back.
Thank you.
Yeah, no,
So, mhm.
yeah. What were you saying? You go.
Oh, well, we were talking off stage, and you mentioned you read Palace One, and yeah, I'm here to talk about the current campaign I've got going for Palace issue 3 on Kickstarter. But you were mentioning that you like Palace One, so I was glad.
Yeah, no. I enjoyed it, and what I was saying is that it's very much a D&D themed book, and
Yeah.
it's got those elements into it where obviously you're not rolling a dice with this book, but it easily follows that vein, follows kind of that turn system a little bit. Obviously, the setting is that way, but I do want to catch everybody up on what is Palace of the Golden Princess because obviously there's issue 1, 2, and 3, which you're
Yeah.
currently funding on. And I think you can get 1 and 2, obviously PDF format. And
Yep.
obviously, people who have been watching this show for a while have been hearing me speak about this for what 3, 4 months at this point about
Hey,
how to get a
I,
free
I'm
PDF.
ready to re up for another month, Andrew. So I'm your perpetual investor.
Hey, it's not till November. It's not till November.
Awesome.
Um,
Fantastic.
and you don't have to, but I'm happy to take your money anytime.
Okay.
It will go to nothing good, I promise. But all jokes aside, I do want to catch everybody up on what is Palace of the Golden Princess for those who are hearing about it for the first time, because everybody comes into everybody's campaign at a different side, and
Right.
people are exposed to new things all the time. So what is the basic premise of this book? Because I think it's fascinating.
Well, there was a 1981 Dungeons and Dragons adventure that was the first adventure ever written by a woman. Her name was Jean Wells, and at the time, D&D was under fire for sexism. So they're like, all right, this is going to stem the criticism. Here it is, the first adventure ever written by a woman, and it contained elements inside it that they deemed uh, racy S&M, which included um, an evil queen and this female-controlled society, and she was kind of like openly promiscuous, and um, this was a Dungeons and Dragons model kind of targeted towards like the younger audience. So everybody freaked out, and they called her into the office and like, why did you put S&M in this adventure? And it got destroyed. So it's like this infamous adventure. And I thought back during quarantine, um, I didn't have much to do, as with so many of you. So I started playing Dungeons and Dragons over the internet with Doug Tenaple of all people and his kid. And I had this adventure because when Wizards of the Coast bought out TSR back in like, and they were publishing third edition in the late 90s. They had revamped the website and stuff. And they gave away the Palace of the Silver Princess 1981 Lost Adventure as a PDF. And I just downloaded it, and I had just had it, like 20 years later. I'm like, here, let me run this. And in reading through it, I'm like, man, this is just kinky AF. So I thought, this would make an interesting setting for a comic book. And here we are on issue 3. So,
Yeah, let's talk about that because this adventure to have a copy of it is really, really expensive. What is it, like
yeah,
45
it's like
on eBay now?
$6,000, I think, most recently on eBay. Um,
It's kind of crazy. We all made bad investments in the 80s, guys. It's all right.
yeah.
Everybody gets one. Everybody gets one. So this is your one, everybody. But all jokes aside, I mean, what is this like? Because obviously we are in 2023. I think you started doing this 2021,
Yeah.
21.
Yeah.
And what is that like to take a, I guess, adventure in D&D from 40 years ago, give or take, and then kind of update it and bring it into a new format? Because that's what's interesting about it. And I liked issue 1. I haven't read issue 2 yet. I'm looking forward to issue 3 because obviously I back this campaign. Everybody knows me. I don't back anything I
Mhm.
don't like. So I'm
Oh, okay.
very excited. I'm very excited where there's plenty of campaigns that I don't like, and I am very selective. So obviously And we're going to talk about why I backed this maybe a little bit later. There's two reasons. I like the story, but the other reason is we're going to talk about covers in a second, or maybe
Okay.
20 now. But what is that like for you? Because I think it is cool when you recycle media and you take a concept and you add a new spin to it and you introduce it to a whole new audience.
Mm-hmm. What was the question?
Oh, no. What is
Oh,
this like to take something that's 40 years old and bring
yeah.
it into, I guess, I don't want to say more progressive time, but
Right.
maybe a more accepting time, because obviously a woman themed society and run by
Yeah.
women, and we are in an age where that is not, where that is
I
okay.
mean, it was back when it was first done. I mean, it was pretty salacious. I remember at the time, and I talk about this on my YouTube channel over at Pocket Jacks Comics. Like Buck Rogers had like these like episodes where Buck ends up on like the planet of like the women who turn him into a slave and sell him off at an I like those and that was just put out on network television. So it wasn't like necessarily taboo, but it was certainly salacious pop culture stuff going on back in like the early 80s. These days it's I don't I mean the only people who are really like yeah, it's not a big topic anymore. So yeah, people are, I guess, less judgmental, I suppose, than the theoretical 80s audiences, but I wasn't around selling in those audiences, so I don't necessarily know what it was like back then. But generally I think people like the setting, and it's pacing to have more backers than issue 1 or 2. So it's hopefully I'm going to have like around 350 backers by the time it's all done.
Yeah,
Right now,
let's talk about that a
yeah,
little bit as well,
sure,
because obviously, I mean, I view success on Kickstarter in three different categories.
yeah,
Obviously, funding and breaking even is a form of success to me.
hmm,
Um, and then the other form is obviously delivering your campaign. And
right,
then the third form, which can be achieved or not achieved sometimes, is obviously more backers and
hmm,
also more value in backers. Now,
right,
I don't know if your backer value is increasing. So if your backer value on issue 1 was $18, and then in issue 2 is 21, and then in issue 3 is 24, that's an increase in backer value. I was like, well, I
right.
mean, other people might have a different term for it, but that's how
At,
that's the term
at
I.
average pledge,
Average pledge is
yeah,
another way to look at, and also backer count number is important.
right,
And so, what is that like? Because obviously, if you are getting more backers, you're doing something right. Even if the average pledge isn't increasing,
hmm,
that's okay, because you're getting more backers, which means you're going to get more money. But if
right.
you're getting more money and you're maintaining your backers, that means you're also doing something right. And if you're doing both, I mean, that
Sure.
means that you're doing something really great. And sometimes, maybe something happens where you do 10
Well,
less backers.
I mean,
So what
the
is that
the
like?
comic industry uh, has a lot of people who want to get the book and want to spend um, as little as possible, ideally, and then you get occasionally some whales, and just like Magic is talking about like setting up and catering to this, as are like I've been watching a lot of videos on the future of Dungeons and Dragons and how they're going to like this virtual tabletop thing where everyone has to log into a computer to play, and how they're like maybe going to be chasing like the whales or something, because when they look at like these online platforms and whatnot, like a few backers constituted like a lot of the revenue. There would just be like some people who would just be like, yeah, I want one of everything. So when it comes to like average pledge on Kickstarter, it's, did you have a really hot cover that that somebody just wanted to buy in metal and print and all this other stuff? Because spend like $500 or something, and that'll knock your average pledge, way out of the park. So, but it's trying. I always base it so there's a lot of value in my campaigns. Um, so I try and make sure that I'm providing a good story for people and that they're going to come back. And I remember I was talking with Mindy Wheeler actually a couple of weeks ago about comic books, and she was like, "Well, you're never going to sell as much as you do on the first one." I'm like, "That's not true. I mean, like each of my campaigns, like White Lily 1 through 5 and Guinevere 1 through 5 and now Palace 1, 1, 2, and 3, you see, increasing backer numbers as you get the successive books out.
So let's actually talk about that, because I think that
Mhm.
a campaign done right, I think it should be a ramp going upward, not
Right.
down.
Yes.
If it's done correctly. Now, you could have a quagmire, you could have a hiccup in issue 4, for instance. It happens
Right.
sometimes, but then sometimes issue 5 just slams that out of the park.
Right.
And things could happen. It could just be a weird thing that happens where you do 10,000 on one and then you do 9,500 on another. But if you have a $500 dip, I don't consider that a setback, because that's just like, that's not even, I think, like a 2% margin of error.
Mhm.
But I digress. But what is that like for you? Because obviously, I think story matters, and
Mhm.
because hot covers and variants and sexy covers, they can only take you so far. Because I'll give you an example. I backed plenty of number ones because I love the cover, but then I
Mhm.
thought the story was dog shit.
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm not back for issue 2,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I've been told, and raised on, is the idea that the writing doesn't sell the issue, but the writing sells the next issue, kind of thing. You know.
And so for me, I don't like I back the book, and I'm not gonna say whose book it is. Issue
Mhm.
1, I'm like, okay, this wasn't good. It was okay. Cover
Right.
was okay. Let me give it a shot. Guy's a friend. Issue 2, and then after spending $40, I'm like, I can't do this for another $80 or
Yeah.
$100. I just can't. And I don't know if the writing got better, but like, I didn't need to know the character was a bitch. You didn't need to spend the first issue and a half telling me the character is a bitch. I
Mhm.
got it. It would have taken 6 to 8 pages if you really wanted to hammer it in and pack it in and make it crystal clear. I
Yeah.
didn't need legitly 35 pages of that. I
Well,
didn't.
a lot of people don't workshop writing, and I think a lot of them need to. You know, and that's what I do on my channel. It doesn't get a lot of views at all, but I think it's a necessary function for people who care about the craft and writings to come together and, like, here's my script. What do you think? So, and yeah, a lot of it comes down to efficiency, where you can just tell somebody, okay, you've been doing this for 35 pages. You could condense it to 6. Um,
My understanding of this person is that they might have had a contract, and I think they did have a
right.
contract with a publishing house, and they wanted 6 issues. So
Right.
now you're in a position where you need to put what is known as filler into a book.
Right.
And that's part of the problem sometimes, I think, is that somebody says, look, I know that there is a contract out there where they want 6 issues. I need 144 pages. And so maybe I need to expand this idea, because the meat of the story is issues 3, 4, and 5. 6 is the wrap up, but I don't have anything for issues 1 and 2. And so if I just develop her character and pack it in and reiterate it and have little side things in there that mean nothing in the long run, and because that's what I think happens sometimes. And also, I think
Right.
that's the hopefulness. And I think sometimes a story should be 4 issues. I don't think that there's a problem with 4 issues. I'm a big fan of Gun Honey, and Gun
Mhm.
Honey is 4 issues of really good story.
Well, I do 5 traditionally. So
5 is
Winter
fine
is
with me
5,
too.
White
It's
Lily
good.
is 5, Palace is going to be 5. So
I don't care if you
yeah.
do 5. I don't care if you do 50.
Right.
If it makes sense. I don't have a number in my head. The point is that I just don't want you to. If you were to do 50 issues of Palace and there was 10 issues of just pure filler, I'd be like,
Right.
the fuck? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a big anime fan. I love Naruto, and I love some of the filler episodes in Naruto. They're great to just chill out, relax, open up a cold one. But I also get to the point where I'm like, great, I don't like these 20 episodes of filler. Let me just skip this. I don't need to watch this, but I like this arc of filler. That's 4 episodes. But I digress. I think, but you brought up a really interesting point, because this is what I like about Pals, is that I don't feel like there's bullshit in your book.
How do you
And
mean? You mean just like filler, I guess.
yeah, like, and I don't feel like there's wasted motion, where I feel
Mhm.
like we're telling a story of, this character, Thora,
Right.
obviously this society run by women, what happens in their society when shit goes wrong and they make a bad decision in
Mhm.
some ways, and they don't live up to a fulfillment and a promise. And then now we're going through a lot of stuff, and she's obviously growing as a character. And so that's what I kind of like about it, is that we get that, and it's very interesting, because I also think you touch upon another thing where you're portraying strong women.
Mhm.
and you're also portraying really, really bad women at the same time, and evil women to some degree. And so I think it's really interesting because you're touching on both things. And I think a lot of comics don't do that well. And I think you really hit a niche that you might not get a lot of credit for.
Well, thank you. I do my best. Did you read Guinevere or White Lily or any of those?
I read White Lily. I did not.
It's good, right?
I enjoyed White Lily.
Yeah.
White Lily was the airplane one, right?
That's the airplane one, yes.
Yes, I did read White Lily. I enjoyed that because I really enjoyed dogfighting. The shooting the airplane stuff, guys. Not Michael Vick. I want to make that crystal clear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The dogfighting is up in the air. It's not dogs fighting in a pit. I need to make that crystal clear here. But I enjoyed White Lily because I think there's some truth to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I did not read Guinevere. I just have not got around to it. That's all it is. Is that it's nothing against Guinevere. It's got obviously a lot of stuff in there.
It does. Yeah.
but what is that like? Because I think it's a real skill to be able to write a woman-focused story. Because I don't think right now in comics that is necessarily being done the way.
It's being done. I mean, there's certainly like a number of, female-centered titles, I would say, like Zenescope, because, Zenescope has similar model of, like, if you want sexy covers, you got to have lady characters. And
you could do it with men. I am an equal offender. And I have no problem where a man just having his mask in front of his junk. I support that completely. I want to make that crystal clear. I will stand with me.
You've got a lot of strong female characters that are written and portrayed to be that way. So I would say that's a big genre. But you're saying like not a lot of people do it well, so I take that as a compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, no. Zenescope does it well with certain characters, and we'll call it what it is. Where I think they do a great job with Robin Hood and Van Helsing. I think they sometimes hit and miss with Cinderella. I think they sometimes hit and miss with Sky. I think that they hit and miss sometimes with Wonderland. Wonderland, though, is also a unique beast in that regard. But I do think that Robin Hood and Van Helsing with Zenescope do a great job with strong female characters, and you got the sexy covers and all that stuff. But I also think that there's a lot of writers out there right now that just are really bad at writing female characters. And I don't think that, and I'm going to say something, and I don't think they understand how to write a strong female character and how to capture the sexiness of that character, which I think you capture, but also the badass element of it, and how, there's a bunch of songs by Heart that talk about this, where, and I think that's what's missing is that you could have a female character wanting to be sexy, looking good, but kicking ass, but also want to go home with a man. If that makes any sense. And I think that's a unique thing that a lot of people are missing in their books. I think it's a problem. And I think that Paths of the Golden Princess, tackles that in certain ways. And I think it's really interesting.
Well, I was going to say White Lily certainly does as well.
Yes, it does in a lot of ways.
Right. So, awesome. But yeah, if you want, we can go over the campaign and the.
We could show the campaign.
Yeah. So here we are. We got a week to go. 255 backers. According to backer tracker over here, it's due for 11 grand. So here's hoping. And I would like to tack on another 100 backers here and end up around 350. That would be good. So here in this Kickstarter, here's some samples of the interiors, so you can kind of see the artwork. And I've introduced we've got a female-run society, but what about the classic pillory where you're kind of leaving people out for being punished, and that was how they used to do it. And I'm like, well, what would that be like in a female-run society? So here, this guy's in the pillory, and it says mansplainer, and Thor and Gretchen are going to have some fun with him, as we see kind of in this cover by Whiskey Paint, and that's limited edition. And there's
we're gonna talk about the covers. We're gonna talk about the covers in a second, but What is that like? Because obviously this is now we're getting into that stuff. We're getting into a lot of other decisions that have been made.
Yeah,
And what is that like to have fun with things? Because I'm into to some interesting things, and I obviously like flipping things up on their side and shaking up the bottle and see what winds up on top,
yeah,
on the bottom. And I think it's interesting to do that because comics to me are the place to do it right now. They're cheaper.
yes, yeah. I feel comics is it's a wonderful medium to tell stories in, and I get to march to my own drum over here in the corner, and uh, I'm going to a con this weekend. I went to like 27 cons in like a year, so I'm gonna slow down next year. But I do a lot of conventions, and I get in front of people, and I see what sells, and you form an audience of people who just like the stuff you're putting out, and I'm happy.
So
So
let's actually talk about that because
yeah,
comics, and I think on the indies in particular, especially if you're going to cons, is very interesting because you can get direct feedback. You can see what
yeah,
other people are doing, and you
yeah,
can see if something works at a con, if it doesn't, and you can say, "Cool, this worked, this didn't." So
mhm,
obviously, I'm privileged where I'm in the space of buying and selling on eBay. You sell a lot of books as well. And so I get to see what works and how companies and a variety of companies are doing it. Like I look at Zenoscope, I look at Big Dog Inc., I look at Mount Olympus, I look at Merc Magazine, and I'm
mhm,
like, cool, these covers sell out within minutes in these companies, and these covers don't.
right,
And why is that? And then I question it, I look at it, I say, cool, if this cover doesn't move, I like that cover for my personal collection, but I don't like it for my business.
right,
Why did cover A work really well, and why does it fetch $75 when it's a $15 cover that I bought
right,
5 months ago and now it's sold out? And then within a day, it sells out on my eBay store. And so,
right.
what is that like for you? Because, obviously, when you bring the first issue, the second issue, and then you're like, cool, these three covers I sold out at this con, then you go back and you look at issue 2 and then issue 3. I mean,
Mm.
you're getting direct feedback, and I think it's very important to understand that. And so what is that like? Because I think it's fascinating on a business level.
I mean, I've got a minor in psychology, and there was a fascinating documentary that you can actually watch on YouTube for free called like the Century of the Self or something. But it talks about Freud's nephew Edward Bernays and his huge impact on advertising. And Bernays really focused on kind of appealing to like the Freudian subconscious. Like one of his first projects was encouraging women to smoke, and he did that by getting these women at a suffragette movement to like smoke while they were during the march, and he was calling these were like liberation torches or something, and some woman got photographed in a magazine smoking, and then it caused more women to smoke. So like he was good at like you trying to get people to consume products to meet some unexpressed need kind of thing. And here with Palace, I get to put the stories down and the art down and find what sells, and a lot of people like this cover, or kind of these powerful, sexy women. I see that people respond to them, they buy them, and not just men, like a lot of women. I have a fair amount of lady fans, and they buy artwork too, and I appreciate everybody. So I know that this setting is popular. It's also rather risque, but hey, it's gonna get over 300 backers, and I'm happy.
Do
So
you feel though that we are in a movement where a lot more people feel comfortable saying, "Hey, I'm interested in this stuff," both men and women, and
right.
then because 10 years ago, I think obviously there was a lot more stigmatism around
Mhm,
this. I was speaking to somebody who's in the adult industry, Bella Rockefeller, and
mhm,
we were speaking about COVID, and a lot of people during COVID found out a lot about who they were because they spent time with themselves. And I
mhm,
think a lot of people, and I think if you did not know, if you went, obviously nobody chose to go into COVID, but if you didn't come out of COVID knowing who you are and what you like and what you don't like, then I think you failed because
okay. Yeah,
COVID really, I think, forced people to discover who they are, what they want to do, how they want to do things, and what they enjoy. And I think that it also forced people to start asking real questions. And so I think that obviously something like this and what you've created, a lot of people are into it for a lot of
Yeah.
different reasons. And I mean, we don't have to go into all of it. It could be sexual, it could just be
Right.
fantasy, it could just be saying, hey, this is a flip up of sword and sorcery type style stuff.
Right.
Saying I just want an alternative history to some degree or an alternative reality. And so obviously that's something that I think is really interesting that you've done with this, that I think COVID has really helped this type of book massively.
Well, I'm glad. So
I'm glad you're
yeah,
making money with it. I mean,
I
it's
know
great.
I am. I love my work, and I'm glad I have fans. So there you go.
And then and then
Um,
and then I do want to even go further as well, because obviously I do want to talk about these covers, because obviously I was speaking
oh,
to
hold on.
Steve.
Let me bring those back up again
Oh,
then.
no, I got them right here. I got them right
Okay,
here.
cool. Okay, all
I
right,
got
go. Oh yeah, there we go.
I got the good ones. But I was
Yeah.
speaking to Steve Streetman, and he does a lot of what I call bad girl art and sexy
Mhm.
covers.
Yeah.
And what we were talking about is that men appreciate these things,
Mhm.
and women, and so do women appreciate
Mhm.
other women. And no, it's not gay or lesbian.
Mhm.
You can appreciate the female body as an art form. So I think this is, though, cover A is right
Yes,
here.
that is the main retail cover. And now usually the main retail cover is done by the team that does the interiors of the book. But Ediano has been really slammed with dynamite doing Killer Instinct. They're doing a comic book over there for Killer Instinct. And I love the way he draws. And he did the first two issues, so I wanted him for the third. So this was the first chance he had to get free, and he banged out issue 3 for me, but I didn't have time to do a cover. So this is Miss Sashi, who's she's been a tremendous artist, one of my most popular when it comes to selling prints. And I think that's a gorgeous cover that you should be happy to scoop up. At what am I selling at, like $10 or something? That's gorgeous. Anyway.
So let's actually talk about that too, because I am a big fan that you should have different pricing for different
Yeah.
books. In which that I think it's a mistake that if your cover starts at $25, if your cover A starts at $25 for a physical copy, I think it's a mistake, because everybody comes into a Kickstarter with different economics.
Right.
Sometimes I only have $20, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes I have $100 to buy on a campaign, or sometimes I say, look, I just want to pick this up more on a personal level, or I don't want everything on this campaign. And you can exclude somebody. And I think it's a really, really bad business practice to not have a $10, $12, $15 cover for a cover A and then tier up or upsell. And so what is that like for you? Because I think it is really smart to have a $10 or $12 or $13, $14 cover, and then also have those higher tiers. So what is
I
that?
mean, so I'm attempting to do. I think about elegance, and I think, like, I don't like a lot of these Kickstarters where I see where they've got like every cover, and here's tier A where you got the cover, and here's tier B where you got that cover and the naughty version, here's tier C where you got that cover and the naughty version metal, and here's tier, like, and you end up with like 20 different, because you have like maybe 3 or 4 different comic book covers, and then all these different iterations of it. And so you end up with like this massive scroll over on the right, and a lot of those don't get filled. There will be like one hot cover and everyone will jam that one, and then the other ones are just like all this scroll space of unfulfilled things. So for me, I've tried to do this in an a la carte approach where, okay, boom, here's like you saw the main retail cover, I think $15, you get that delivered, free delivery, and a PDF of the book. And then it just kind of, if you want to add on other things like White Lily or Guinevere, they're available for you. Or if you want holofoil prints, those are all available as an add-on. But instead of constructing the tiers pre-made where you get and a tapestry and a this and a this, they're all available as add-ons. And the idea is that, I'm offering great value at each tier and
Do,
encouraging people to get more. And
yeah,
it's,
do
yeah.
you feel that? I mean, I don't know how you feel and how many campaigns you back.
Mhm.
I hate campaigns that have 50 tiers. I hate them. It
Yeah,
drives
I hate those too. Yeah.
it's not because I'm not interested in you having a cover A naughty, a medal of cover A. That's not my problem. My problem is that I have to scroll to figure out what the hell I want. So let's say I like cover F. I know I have to spend 5 minutes scrolling for cover F.
Exactly. So
I would. It's not good for me. And then I'm like, great. And then after a while, if you have 19 covers, I stop looking after cover 7. I
right.
hate to say it. I
Yeah.
stop looking. So if cover 8 is really good, you lost me. I'll
Mhm.
back cover 5.
Right.
Happy
Yeah.
with it, but I'm like, I just had a campaign where they had a lot of covers and they offered a free metal card of any cover you wanted. And it took me 20 minutes to decide which
Mhm.
metal card I want. I'm like,
You're
this is
wrong, yeah.
horrible. It's
You're
free.
wrong.
And I said,
Yeah.
I'm gonna fuck this up. It was terrible.
Yeah.
But like the problem is that there was too many choices where there was legitly like 50 choices.
Right.
And
And there's a book out there, I forget the title of it, but it's about um, studies where if you offer 10 options to customers, you end up making less revenue than if you only offered 4.
there's a study, and I forget the study who did it, but the hardest thing for immigrants when they come to America is the cereal aisle. Because in
Yeah.
America, we have 50 different cereals. And when
Mhm.
immigrants go in, and I've seen this firsthand, they look like a deer in headlights. They
Right.
don't understand what Reese's Pieces cereal is. They don't
Yeah.
understand what Wheaties is. And they don't understand that you have Frosted Flakes, Corn Pops, Smacks, and Fruit
Yeah.
Loops. And they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
funny
Yeah.
because nobody's getting hurt, but it's
Yeah.
also you realize really, really quickly that, oh my God, this is not normal in other countries, this amount of choice. And I just think it's crazy. And I think what you do is that you give me 5 options.
Mhm.
So, and all 5 of your options are pretty good.
And
So,
that's why I put together some cool bundles. Like for $99, you get all the naughty covers and this cool like comic portfolio because and I'm proud with how the covers have performed in this one because a lot of times in past campaign there's been like one hot cover that everyone just goes and grabs, and the other ones will just languish. But here there's like the love is spread out. Like you like the whiskey paint cover. Some people are fans of like the RB White cover,
yeah,
and
actually talk about that too, because I
sure.
think that's interesting. I was speaking with JD Calderon about a week
Mhm,
ago, and he has 2 or 3 winners on his campaign, and
mhm.
the other books are just not carrying their weight. Now,
Right,
one of those covers was dirt cheap, so it's like the break even point on that cover is easy. But there gets a point saying, look, these covers aren't a contender, where the
right,
one guy is just killing everything. And
right.
there's nothing that's a good problem to have. I
Mhm,
mean, it's good that you have a cover that's legitimately carrying the whole campaign. There's
mhm.
nothing wrong with that, but there also gets a point saying, did if 2 covers out of your 6 are carrying the whole campaign, I mean, you kind of messed up on the other 4. I mean, by
Yes,
definition, and
exactly.
that's not
And
good.
and I gotta say that's where I've gotten I appreciate every artist that tries to work with me. I know that I'm not for everyone because I will tend to give some pushback and go, can you do this or can you change that? And it's because like I've gone through so many experiences where there's a cover out there and just nobody wants it. And and I've seen them enough to go, yeah, that looks like a cover that won't sell. So can we make it into something that will? It's because yes, you end up in this situation otherwise where you just this artwork isn't pulling its weight. So
Let's actually talk about that,
mhm.
and not in anybody particular, but
Yeah,
I go into a comic shop and I'm like, that cover is not for me.
right,
And if you walk into a comic shop and they have 10 or 15 of those books and it's from 3 weeks ago, there's a reason why. It's either the writing is really bad or the cover sucks in it.
right.
And it's not moving things or nobody cares about that book. There's only 3 reasons why a book doesn't sell. But I think it is very important that, and I think artists sometimes don't know how to table their ego, where you're not insulting somebody's ability. You're saying, hey, look, I needed to do X because I need to sell it
Right.
because you're paying for it. It's
And there's, like inherently there's kind of a conflict between the interests because I want something that I can resell for a profit, and they want to get this done so they can get on to probably a more important client. And I understand. Um, but yeah, it's that's where the really successful art comes from, in my opinion. Is it's the feedback of can you change this and do that, and yeah, I'm happy with how all these covers turned out. So
Yeah, let's actually talk about this because this is the fun one where
yeah,
obviously Thor's having a good time and
yeah,
her little friend's having a great time as
yeah,
well. And she's into a little bit of change, so she's
yes.
having a good time with that. I don't know what's on the other end of her chain, but that's all right.
Okay. Well, this is a
We can
point
all
of view.
find
You
out.
see,
We'll all find out together.
okay. Well, here at the bottom, this is like the front of a collar. So she's got somebody by the neck and she's pulling him. See?
Hey!
Okay.
She's an equal offender.
She
That's all
is.
I'm gonna say.
Well, we don't know who's in the collar. It's us, really. It invites the viewer to into the fantasy. But
So many things could be said. So
yeah,
many things could be said.
it's very it's very provocative.
Well, I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
I am a strong believer. So obviously, I
yeah,
interview
yeah.
adult entertainers on this show. I've had
Mhm.
real conversations with people. I'm having one on next week.
Awesome.
She's a great individual. It's going to be a blast. She's going to be a blast. Bella Madison is such a fun person to hang out with. But obviously, I love things that facilitate a conversation, and I love getting controversial. In that, I love art that's controversial. I mean, I'm a big Robert Mapplethorpe fan. I
Oh
absolutely,
wow. Okay.
I mean, I absolutely love him, and I've
Okay.
had conversations, and let's just say that whips are fun.
Yeah.
The way he uses them, they're
Right.
very fun. It's
Okay.
art, guys. It's art. I want to make that
Yeah.
crystal clear.
There you go.
But it does facilitate a conversation, and I think
Yeah.
that cover facilitates a conversation. So, what is that like? Because somebody passes by your table, they're gonna stop. They're gonna
Yeah.
stop. They're gonna say, "What's this?"
Yes. And that cover has really been the face of Palace uh, for a few months now, and like I said, it's to me, like if you look at that cover ad, I'm just like, do you like this? And then, yeah. Then like you don't really need to say anything else. I'm like, okay, sign up here. We're about to launch. So
I mean,
uh,
because that's the thing is that, and this is my question to you, is that I feel that right now with comics is that you got to get somebody to stop and take a look at it. Then you got
right,
to convince them with words, pictures, a little bit of story, maybe a concept, but you got to get somebody's attention. I mean, there's a million things that I can do right now that I'm distracted by. I'm a big anime fan. I'm a big sports fan. I mean, tomorrow night I'm watching Thursday Night Football. I'm not thinking about anybody in comics tomorrow night. On
right.
Sunday night, I'm not thinking about anybody in comics. And
Mhm.
so, in order to get me to back your campaign right now, everybody, you got to make me stop with something, whether
Right.
it's the concept, whether it's a cover, whether it's just because I know you, whether it's something else. I mean, same thing with an interview. I mean, you got to get me hooked somehow.
Mhm.
And if you're at a con, and this is just my thoughts, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, cons are very visual. Whatnot is very visual. And if
Mhm.
you want somebody to buy something from you, I mean, visual impact is a big deal. And that cover in particular, this one, I think it
Mhm.
really says, cool, what's going on here? And who's in that collar? Who's behind or
Right.
connected to that chain?
And
And why are they?
Tom Hutchinson and I, we talk about, we talk shop, and he once said, "Don't try and tell a story with the cover, just character and a background." And for the most part, he's right. But this one I've been happy with because the cover does tell a story, but it's still provocative and it's popular, and I think there's enough there on just a glance that kind of pulls you in, and then after you're looking at it for a number of seconds, you start to notice details that put together like a broader picture. So it took a lot of back and forth with the artist on that one, and I was really appreciative of them working with me. So good
And
job
then
with the paint. Yeah.
there's also a nude version of that one, I
There
believe.
absolutely is, yes.
So
And
obviously that's a different story for all of you who
yeah,
um I digress. And then obviously speaking about Tom and just
mhm,
doing character work, this is the cover that I like a lot. Um,
right,
I'm not a nude fan. I know there's a nude version of this, but
there is.
I just like the whole thing with her with the crown and
Yeah.
what's going on. And I kind of just like it because I actually like it clothed because I find it to be provocative. I find it to be sexy, but I don't
Yeah.
find it, I find it to be tasteful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like it's classy, you know, and which I kind of like. So yeah, I was happy with how that cover came out. I'm thank you for patronizing that cover. So,
Oh yeah, no. Again. I don't back a lot of Kickstarters. I do not back people's campaigns that I do not like. So if
right.
I don't like your book, I might interview you, but I probably won't back your book. I am known for that, where I actually have to like your product,
Hmm.
to actually buy a physical tier. So I'm very excited for that book. I'm looking forward to it in my personal collection. And then RB White was on, and I like RB
Hmm.
White,
Yeah.
and I kind of like this one because this one's kind of fun. And
Yeah.
obviously, this to me is fun. It's not, I feel, a serious cover. I feel it's a
Yeah.
little cartoony, a
It
little,
is. It is a little cartoony. Yes.
and I like it because it's just a different style. It's a little bit playful, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a story going on here.
There is. Yeah. It's very similar to the whiskey paint cover, with the pillory. And yeah, you know, like, look, some people appreciate certain angles, and I try and help everybody out.
And is there a nude version of this one? Because I know RB
There,
White.
there absolutely is a nude version of this one. Yes.
So I think that's really interesting, and I kind of like it because I think it's also important to have different styles in your campaign.
Hmm. Right.
Because this is just my view, is that a lot of reasons why I don't back people's campaigns is that the whole fucking thing's generic, and
Yeah.
I can't take it. I can't take it. If you just have a bad girl art book, I mean, it's great and I appreciate it, but like, if you have 5 people who all do the same style, there gets a point where I'm like, there's nothing special about your book, and then the guy next to you is doing the same shit. Like,
Hmm.
this is where I think that having RB White and doing whiskey paint and having that stuff all mixed up in there is very important, because it's not anymore where you're making me stop in different styles. And then there's this one too, which is just very um artistic, is a good way to put it.
Hmm.
And definitely I find this to be a little bit more of a fine art type, cover.
Yes. So, and this was, I sell a lot of Frank Frazetta, and there's a Frank Frazetta add-on bundle for this campaign where you get a Frank Frazetta Gorgeous Fantasy art book, a book of every book cover he ever did in chronological order, and a storybook around Death Dealer. They're all hardcover books, and it's a $99 add-on. And I sell a lot of just Frank, because I'm a Frazetta dealer, but I know like how many people come to my booth and just buy them, and so I'm like, I wanted something that was kind of in that style. So that's I asked Whiskey Paint to do in the style of Frank Frazetta, and that's what we came up with. And that's one of 50 in terms of how many comics we're going to issue. So yeah.
Yeah, what is that like to really do that? Because obviously there are people who collect certain artists and
Hmm.
styles,
Yeah.
and that hits a different niche completely. And I know this is sort of taboo and maybe not the best thing to say, but I know people collect certain artists and they don't necessarily care who's on the campaign, but they say, hey, cool, if this is a Frank Frazetta homage book, and I need to have that in my collection because I'm a Frank Frazetta collector and adjacent. And that's a big thing right now with comics, where I know people who collect only bikini issues of comic books. And they don't really care what is in there. They just
Mhm.
care that they want that. So they'll do the Street Fighter, they'll do the Top Cow, and they'll do the Zenoscope Swimsuit Edition.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily a fan of those companies. They're a fan of a style. And so
Hmm.
what's that like? Because you're also opening up a bigger audience to some degree.
Hmm. You know what? I didn't think about that till you said it. It's a good idea. I should start doing swimsuit covers.
Oh yes,
Fair enough.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I would love Thor in a
Thor
swimsuit.
in a swimsuit. Okay. Love it. Off I go.
Oh my god, it'd be so good. It'd be so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm down for it. Do it like right at the
Yeah.
start of summer. Oh, it'd be great. It'd be great. Like
Yeah.
do it like May. Oh, it'd be
Yeah.
great. So good, so good. So many people could do that book. Just get like Elias Chazudis on that book. Oh,
Yeah.
you'll be
He's,
going.
he's, he's hard to get, but yeah.
You got to start now to get him in May. Oh,
Okay. There we go. That's a good idea. Yeah, I'll reach out to him.
But because that's what's cool about that book, I think, is that you're hitting a very interesting niche where there's people who will come potentially to this campaign for just that book and for your dealer, and obviously that add-on. And so what is that like? Because I think that's really important, that obviously you have an advantage that other people don't have in that regard.
What's your question?
Oh, no, no, I was just saying, what is that like to really capture that niche? Because you
Oh,
have the
uh,
ability to add a lot of value in that regard. Because if you are a Frank Frazetta dealer and you have
mhm.
that cover, and then you could add the bundle of those books, and those books can be a pain in the ass to find, and somebody wants those books, I mean, that's like a home run waiting for you.
I've I've started to tailor my cons. Like I've discovered I don't like anime cons. Like the patrons there don't really respond to my stuff. I like the old school RPG cons or like horror cons because there's fair number of Frank Frazetta fans there. And they'll go, oh wow, and and when I start selling those books, it certainly helps revenue quite a bit. So I I
Actually,
hope I haven't been to a con yet with these covers and prints. I hope that they sell. We'll see. I'll let
I
you
was
know.
having a discussion with somebody. So obviously, I
Mhm.
have an eBay store, and
Okay.
what I'm
Me
figuring
too.
out is that I like to put certain things next to each other. So what I find is that Mount Olympus works really well with Zenoscope. It works really well with Big Dog Ink. It works well with Eterno Press. It works well with Merc Mag, because those audiences cross reference. And then I'm looking for other companies that fit into that narrative, because I want the person who's coming for whatever it is, Mount Olympus, for instance, to say, cool, you have this book that I like that's done by this person or similar, and then done by this person, done by that. And then I want them to buy 15 books from me, because it's an easier sell for me. And I want them to become a customer saying, oh, you have everything I want. And so, what is that like? Because when you go and you do RPG cons, and you do Comic Cons, and you're really tapping into that market, and I think this is something that a lot of people in comics don't understand, is that if you want to be in comics, selling your book is difficult just alone. You can make money doing it, but it's a long journey. Or you could pick up other people's content that works well with your content, and then actually break even and make a profit and do this full time. And I think that's something that you've tapped into. I think your model is smart.
Thank you. And I work with other people, and one of them is having a very successful Kickstarter right now. And I guess I'm a bit chagrined, but a lot of the people that I mentor go on to make more money than I am in Kickstarter. So John Lamont's campaign just crossed $7,000 after 2 days. It's Angel of Darkness 4. But I'll consistently buy some of his books to do my own print run on. I've done that with Tom Hutchinson, with Wicked West, and for that matter, Princess versus Zombies #1, which has been a great seller because it had Whiskey Paint do a Snow White thing, which Tom used himself because he loved the art so much. And for that matter, I will make Guinevere and White Lily available at wholesale to other people because look, I've been there when you're buying your very first Artist Alley table, and what do you put on it? Like here's like your comic, and then you have all this unused space, and
I was having this conversation with somebody and they
yeah,
didn't get it, because
yeah,
I come to the position, and this is just my thought, is that I want to turn a profit. So when I do my first book, I want to
mm,
sell my book, and I want to also say, look, I have one, two, maybe three covers. That's great. I want to sell it. I'm going to sell myself, but I want other things there too, because I don't necessarily need to make a profit, but I want to break even at the very least. And I think this is where people say, but it interferes with my book. And I'm like, yeah, it technically does. But do you want to break even? Do you want to have a little bit of an easier road? And you can always pull back that stuff later on and
mm,
bring more of your stuff when you have issue 2 and issue 3. But when
right.
you're first starting out, how much capital do you really have? And
Hmm.
that's the whole thing, is that I think there's a
And
disconnect
if
with,
you've got like one issue or even one issue and a variant cover, how are you going to make table? Like it's tough.
And so I was trying to explain it to somebody and they just didn't get it. And I'm
Mhm,
like, and I don't have a book, but I'm like, I got it immediately.
mhm.
Like to me, this doesn't seem that difficult.
So
Where
I take some pride in that White Lily and Guinevere have been consistent sellers for these other, comic book creators who aren't even there to pitch my story. Like my books are their backups. Like they're there to pitch their own stuff. But John Lamont tells me, like Guinevere and White Lily have been consistent sellers for him. I know Larry Holder up in Canada. He's been selling some for me, and I appreciate it. It's a win-win for everybody. So
I just think it's interesting. And then obviously you mentioned the portfolio stuff, the
yeah,
noise, nice. Obviously, you got the Frank Frazetta add-ons, anything that anybody wants from Pocket Jacks can be achieved, I think, on this campaign for the most part. So somebody wants something, obviously, and if it's not there, I'm sure that they could reach out to you and you
exactly.
guys can figure it out. But this is where I think you are absolutely brilliant in so many ways because you understand business and you understand money. And I think that's your secret sauce in a lot of ways. And that's why I like talking to you because when I speak to somebody who understands money and understands business, it's very different. Because I don't think you're obviously a comic creator, you're a writer. I know you've done some stuff with movies, but I think all of that comes second to understanding business and actually understanding how to make money. Because I think making money directly from comics is really hard, in my opinion. I think what you do
Tends to be, yeah.
combination of a bunch of stuff where great, you're selling Tom's books, you're selling somebody else's books, you're wholesaling to people, you're buying some other things, you're doing your variants, you're taking somebody's print run, 100 or 150 copies of that. And now all of a sudden you have multiple revenue streams that all surrounded that equal a really, really good living. And I
Mhm.
think there's this mystical position in comics. And this is just my thought where I'm going to write a comic and I'm going to make $1 million. And I think that has to be beaten down and destroyed. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we have to do that. I think the world just does that for you. You go out with these expectations, and then after you go through your first campaign, you're like, well, that was clearly way off. And then, dust yourself off and get back on the horse.
That is true. I mean, I know all about that. I know all about that. I've fallen off the horse way too many times, and
Yeah.
even in my business, I've fallen off the horse way too many times. But I digress. Because I think what you do is the answer. I'm also a big Pat Shan fan, and I think what he does is the answer. And
Hmm.
I honestly think that what people should copy your model, not every aspect of it, but definitely picking up wholesale and doing
Mhm.
that, bringing in other people's books that do sell well and can sell well, and put it next to their books, and obviously find a good fit. So if your book is about werewolves, obviously with Tom, Ursa
Yeah.
Minor is a
Ursa
really
Minor, exactly. Yeah.
is a good one. If you do a Wizard of Oz book and you have a trippy Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the stuff, and that Tom does with his Oz stuff might be a good fit. Or Guinevere might be a good fit because it's definitely a cousin to it. Um,
Mhm.
I think obviously you want to have books that are synergetic with each other. I don't think that you should have a not safe for work book if you have a child's book and a
Mhm.
children's picture book. That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I will carry them, not necessarily on my table, but just because if kids come by, I want to shove something in their face to get them looking at
No, no,
that.
no. You get where I'm going with
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Of
point.
course. Yeah.
I don't want to sell. So Rob Matari just did Wolf Pups, which is a
Mhm.
children's book. If I am selling a not safe for work and that is my brand and my first comic, I'm
Yeah.
probably not going to have a kid's book
Yeah.
next to it. I might have something like Guinevere next to it. I
Right.
might have something more adult next to it, or
Yeah.
something like Nightwolf next to it by Rob Matari because that's more of an adult book because
Mhm.
I want to sell books that work together well. And then Pat Shan, and the reason why I want to bring him up is that he has a lot of writing gigs along with his creator owned stuff. And I think that's something that other people really should consider doing as well is that doing creator own is great and you should always, if you can, do it. But it's very important sometimes to also take a writing gig or have a day job. There's nothing
Mhm.
wrong with that. Having other income streams matters because guess what? It takes off huge amounts of pressure. And that's just my thoughts. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. And I'm more than happy to take the L on that. But that's what I think. And I think a lot of people do not understand either of those points. But that's just what I think. But
business lessons are there, and I didn't come up with any of these. I just, you study business, you read some books, you listen to some lectures, and you start to do, oh yeah, you know what? I shouldn't have blank space on my table. I should put things here, I should have alternatives. If people go, I don't like that, I go, well, how about this? So you learn. Yeah.
I agree. And I was trying to explain it to somebody and they just didn't get it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, alrighty. I can't help you. I can't help you. I just want you to make some money. I like making money too. I have a lot of books in my eBay store, and I have a lot of different sectors in my eBay store. There's a reason why I carry Mount Olympus, I carry Merc, I carry Comic Elite, I carry Zenoscope, because guess what? There's always the person that says, not a fan of Mount Olympus. I have a bad taste in my mouth of them. I love Zenoscope. Great. I got something for you. Somebody's like, hey, I want this. Great. I got that. I carry some indie books. Great. Awesome. I got you covered, because I want to sell to everyone. And I want everybody to have the ability to buy something they want. I carry a lot of baseball cards and collectibles because guess what? I sold pole vaulter cards to people. It sounds weird, but guess what? There's all these women who are into sports and they want to collect women's sports cards. And I carry those. So I want to sell to people and I make bank on them. The profit margins are great, but that's my whole point. But I do want to digress out of this. And I do want to talk about the health of the industry, because you've been doing this for a while. And you are one of the people that I view as being very successful in this area. And I'm curious how you feel where comics are in general right now, and even indie and even mainstream.
I mean, I don't focus on the big two in terms of like their comics, so I can't really talk about how Batman and Spider-Man are doing. I just don't know. But in terms of like the big picture, I think a lot of comic book sales, particularly by the big two, were kind of being movie driven. And I have a feeling like maybe the public has gotten a little tired of superhero movies, such that, well, it's not just a feeling. Like, I'm seeing budgets change. I'm seeing like studios go, do we need that many superhero movies? Maybe we don't, so the audience interest seems to be a bit on the downslope, which means there's probably going to be less of a, I guess, focus on, like all the Marvel characters and Batman and stuff, which will probably have kind of a lack of or a depressing effect on comic book sales here in the next few years. That's what I would say.
See, I have said this before, and I've been very public about it, where I view Marvel and DC as IP farms.
Right.
I see them where they are testing ideas and throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. And they will push out 50 issues of a book. And I made a post and I got some criticism for it. And I think it was a little unjust, where I said, it was a joke a little bit, but I thought there was some truth to it, where when you buy a DC book, you are reading a future movie script, a first draft of a future movie script, which I think is a little bit true. I mean, I think there's elements of that where they're just testing ideas.
I mean, if you're reading one of my book, you're reading a I mean, yeah. I mean, I would love to make them into movies. I make movies, so.
And so my thought process was that they'll test 100 issues of Batman over, 8 years, and then they'll take 10 of the ideas that are tested in there, combine them into something, and put them either into a movie that then will get revised 15 ways from Sunday, or they'll put into a video game, or they'll do something with it that is worth a lot more money than comics. And that's what I think Marvel and DC does. I think they're doing it with mobile games right now. So, I mean, my take on the big two is that they are going really heavy, and I think they're going to go heavy into video games in the next 5 years. I think they really are, and I think that's where they're going to be playing, because I think that's where a lot of the money is. And I just think that's where they're going, and they're planning to follow. And And then I mean, I'm curious how you feel about indie, because a lot of people,
Indie, it seems like, I
it's
mean,
struggling, and
I also manage a bit of money in portfolio and study the economy. I can tell you that the 10-year Treasury yield has crossed over 4.6%, which is,
I'm aware of that too.
yeah, very high level of interest rates. And
I make a lot of money when the economy turns down. I am what is known as a contrarian investor.
oh, me too. Okay, great. There you go.
I've made a lot of money on WWE. I've made a lot of money on L brands, and I,
Yeah.
I'm gonna sound like a really bad person, but during 2020, in those 53 days, my
Wow.
portfolio went down by 40%, and I pumped a lot of money in, and I'm a lot better off for it. So
There you go.
I've been through hell, to put it nicely.
But I think a lot of people have at this point. Like it's the interest rates on credit cards have gone up. The cost of living has gone up. The ability to sell your home because interest rates are so high has gone down. And we're starting to see a decline in overall employment. I want to say, like, we're starting to see like those numbers tick up. So I feel like indie comics on Kickstarter and whatnot is seeing some of that, and also like the declining interest in the superhero movies might be trickling down. But from what I hear, it's tougher to hit your numbers on Kickstarter like you did last year. That's what I'm hearing.
do
So,
you also feel, because this is how I feel,
mhm,
right? Is that there is more competition, where
mhm,
I feel that there's better products on Kickstarter, right? So
right.
I have a finite amount of money. So obviously I back one, two, maybe three projects. So I backed your project, and then I backed somebody else's project on Kickstarter, and I might have one more, right? And
Right.
I have a pretty good idea whose project it's going to be. So I pick and choose what I want. And I think I backed one project in September that's not even a comic project; it's a card project, and it's a fun one. It's like
Yeah.
a Halloween, 18 to 21 plus cards, and I'm a big card collector, so for me that's a lot of fun, right? And it's fun because it's Halloween, it's October, they're going to be coming out soon enough, and I love it. But my point is that I find that there's more competition. I, as a consumer, have more choice, and I also feel that there's other things outside of Kickstarter. I mean, Comics Elite just did Princess Leia with Shikari. And I
Hmm.
hate to say this, but I spent $200. And
Hmm.
so now all of a sudden, I don't have $200 to spend on Kickstarter, but that's
Right.
competing directly with
Yeah. I
Kickstarter.
mean, there is more competition, I guess, in the sexy cover marketplace. But
I
yeah.
I
It,
just meant collectively in comics. I feel that
mhm,
there's more competition outside of
mhm.
just
Yeah.
Kickstarter, crowdfunder, Indiegogo, and then on top of that, I mean, I hate to say this, but my time is very valuable as well.
Sure.
Where I'm a big anime fan. I'm watching football, so on Mondays and Thursdays, I mean, just on an interview basis, I'm not interviewing anybody on a
Mhm.
Monday and Thursday. If you hit me up on Thursday, say I can only do Thursday, I would say, well, we're not going to be doing an interview till March, like,
Right.
because I'm watching football on Thursday nights. And so I also feel bars are back open and other things. So now all the stuff going on there, so that might,
Mhm.
because I don't think it's anymore just that. I think there's other entertainment options.
Mhm.
But that's just what I think. I mean, I'm curious what you think, because that's what I view on this, and I just think that for first 2.5 years things weren't open,
Mhm.
and so we've seen that bump up in Kickstarter. Now we're seeing it potentially decline, or maybe level off, or maybe a bunch of people were.
It's I
No.
I would encourage people to prepare for some tough times ahead. So I think we're gonna have a bit of a washout in the industry. That's what I'm expecting.
I don't disagree, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting. And I think we're going to find out what people are made of and what people aren't made of in this
Mhm.
industry. I think it's going to be fascinating. I think it's going to be very interesting, and I think that it's going to be interesting what happens to big companies, and even some of these like imprints. I
Mhm.
mean, obviously, I think it's going to be interesting how they adapt, and I also think we're going to find out who really is functioning well and who's not.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
there's things that we can and can't say. Obviously, we've seen a lot of things happen.
Mhm.
I'll throw a name out there that I think is relatively safe to throw out there. The Frankie's Comics bankruptcy was a pretty big shock, I think, to the system on a retail level.
Which one?
Frankie's Comics,
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
they went bankrupt.
Okay.
And so they were having some issues, and it started in 2022, and they were very variant heavy, and they were over $1 million in debt to, I think, like 200,000 to Penguin Random House. I think like 150,000 to like PayPal and Shopify and a bunch of other people. And that's a real issue because they owe a lot of merch to people. And so, it's a disaster, to put it nicely. And they owe some people like $1,200 worth of books.
Wow. Mm.
They owe me like $50 worth of books. And what they basically said is that they like ran out of CGC stuff, where like stuff
Oh,
is
yeah.
seed. So like it's a disaster, to put it nicely. And a lot of people have been sort of screwed. If you paid for a $200 CGC book, well, they can't really CGC it. So
Right.
what happens now? It's a very bad situation because a lot of customers got screwed, and a lot of other people and a bunch of artists got screwed. So that this is what I'm curious about you, because that's how I view the whole industry is being rumbled, for lack of a better word.
Yes, I
Uh,
agree.
I digress. I digress. But I do want to back out of all this, and I do also want to just highlight that you do a lot of stuff on YouTube. You almost have a writer's room and a
I
critique
do, yeah.
on that. I think that's healthy.
Thank
I
you.
don't know how people get involved in that with you, but I think it is.
Yeah, just go over, look at Pocket Jacks Comics. I'm on YouTube. You'll probably find some of my latest writer stream, some of my old drama videos, and that's me. And enjoy. And I've got a link to my Discord there, and on my writer stream videos, and you can come hang out with us. We'll go over your comic book writing. We'll talk about it on the weekly stream. We'll help you find cover artists and put together your Kickstarter. I've mentored and really launched a lot of comic book projects at this point. And, hey, I'm happy to help.
And what is that like? Because I've had a discussion with Tom, and
Mhm.
I do think it is very important to have mentors in the industry to some degree, and have people want to help young people coming up. And I
Mhm.
think that there's a problem where I think a bunch of people in comics hate fucking doing that. And I think it's weird, where I've interviewed all of these top professional people like Danny O'Neill, Tom
Mhm.
DeFalco, Paul Levitz, and they're happy to do interviews, and Chuck Dixon, they're happy to do interviews because I think they want to help the next generation, and they want to talk to the next
Right.
generation. And then some kid just did his first Kickstarter. He's like, "Yeah, it's gonna be $20, man, for me to be on your show." I'm like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "Who the fuck are you?"
Right.
And so, what is that like? Because I think it is very, admirable, and I think it's also very important that there's mentors in this industry who are happy to help people. And I think it's a problem, and I think it's definitely done damage to the system when people don't want to provide support and help, and even a little bit, or even advice. Like, I find it a little kind of fucked up, for lack of a better word.
Yes, but I think the comic book business is allowing people to become entrepreneurs for the first time, and something that I always kind of enjoyed, for a relatively modest investment of money. And sadly, like it's they don't have a boss there controlling their behavior anymore, and you find out a lot of people are just kind of selfish and out for themselves and don't really want to help you. And okay, that's just the reality of human nature, as we find out people's characters. So yeah, like a lot of people don't want to help other people succeed in the comic book business. Big surprise at this point. Yeah.
I was shocked too. I was very, very, very shocked, very disturbed, because it was a very upsetting thing that I learned. But I also found a lot of people do want to help, and I found that oddly enough, it's interesting who wants to help and who doesn't.
Mhm.
But obviously that's where I'm at. with all that. And I think it's interesting, and that's just where I'm at. And obviously, I mean, I also want to talk about something else with you because you do
Sure.
things outside of that where obviously you have done movies. You've been
Mhm.
executive producers on movie stuff. And I think that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think you've taken people's movies and I think you've kind of taken over some elements of them and things of that. And obviously I forgot who did that too. There's
Not yet. I haven't. No, I've only produced one movie so far, and I'm working on putting together my second. But I'm way more established at this point in comic books than I am in movies. But so yeah, I don't necessarily have a lot of wisdom to drop on the movie front just yet.
But what is that like to enter that space? Because I think that's really cool because a lot of people, I
Yeah.
hate to say this, but like they start off as a screenwriter
Hmm.
and then they realize that it's really hard to screenwrite and
Yes.
jump into
Well,
comic.
I mean, it's hard to sell a screenplay. But for that matter, it's also hard to sell a comic book script. If you write a comic book script, you go to any artist and go, hey, you're an artist, here's a comic book script. What do you say you draw it and we'll split it 50-50? They're usually going to go, no. And like artists tend to feel, I think, that the writing part is easy, particularly I think in comic books where they feel like it's all about action poses and cool character designs, and why do I really need plot elements to connect these things together? That's just superfluous. Uh, but I don't know. What was your question?
Oh no, no,
Yeah,
no, 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 no. I just think that a lot of problems in comics is that you
yeah,
have a screenwriter writing a comic and a screenwriting and a movie has different tools than a comic book has.
yeah,
And I think sometimes people need to sit down and say, I'm writing a comic book, I'm not writing a movie.
yeah.
Because I've read comic books. And look, I enjoy watching movies. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy watching television, but I also get to a point saying, this is a comic book. It's not a movie. So, but that's just how I feel. But again, I haven't written anything, so I probably should not be talking about this. I can only talk as a fan, but that's how I feel. But I think it's really interesting because you touch on everything, where you've done every aspect, where you've done obviously executive producing on movies, you're working on some other stuff in that space. You've done obviously comic book stuff. You've sold a bunch of comics. You do wholesale. You take people's books. You do print runs, and this is where I think that you become really, really interesting in that regard because you've done almost every aspect of this business. I don't think you've drawn a book yet. I don't
Thank
think.
you. No, I've shied away from the art part. But I do design like that pillory cover you were looking at. Like I went back and forth with whiskey paint, and we really designed what that looks like as a three-dimensional object before we did the cover. Like I had designed this thing that didn't exist, and kind of conjure it into existence. And then once he did it, I was able to refer like RB White and other people. It looks like that, but so yeah, it was a lot of fun. So
I think this is what makes you a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of wisdom in a lot of ways is that great when somebody has done so many different aspects surrounding comics and in comics and components of comics, it adds credibility and it adds a lot of, I guess, saying, hey, when something comes up, this is how you handle it. And I think it's very important and I think when people want to do something, obviously you have to look at successful people, and obviously you're successful in a lot of ways, with your comic books, with taking people's print runs, with executive producing, and then also just turning a profit and selling comic books. And I think that's something that is very much underappreciated when people are successful, and I think people forget that who's successful and who's killing it right now and who's doing a good job, and I think that's something that people should look at you for. I really do.
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Obviously, I mean, we covered a lot of stuff, and I can
We
go on.
did.
I keep blowing smoke up your ass, but
Well, there'll be another issue of Palace coming out soon. So
I
watch for that.
believe
Yeah.
everything that I'm saying with
Thank
you.
you. I
I
appreciate that.
do think that obviously you've done a lot of stuff, and I think that people should look at you and they should copy elements and certain components, depending on who they are, because everybody's a little bit different. But I do believe that people should copy what you've done, and because I think you've done a great job with this. But I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself, because I know you got obviously Palace of the Golden Princess, which is being funded on Kickstarter. I did back it, so if I backed it,
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I'm reminding people because
Palace 3 on Kickstarter right now. We got one more week. We got some gorgeous covers. And after that, Ediano should be done with Killer Instinct and be able to finish issues 4 and 5 going into like the early part of next year. So, and then we'll have another trade paperback under the belt. Yay.
And then obviously you do Guinevere.
Yeah, and then a sequel to Guinevere. Like Guinevere's been such a good seller for me. And other people. I'm glad. I'm curious, like if Palace will be like that way, or if Palace will just be. I don't know. I wonder, like, is Guinevere or Palace going to be more popular? Because they both got some sexy covers, but they're obviously very different.
They are.
Yeah.
But obviously White Lily as well, and just Pocket Jack Comics has a lot of stuff in it, and some of that stuff's hard to find.
It's on eBay, so
yeah, it's expensive on eBay.
I mean, I got the trade paperbacks up there. Like, I don't know what exactly you're looking for. You're looking for like one obscure variant. I mean, you don't seem like the kind of guy who'd be looking for like White Lily back issues. I mean, you got the trades.
No. You've done some interesting stuff with, I think, White Widow.
Yeah, like those White Widow covers.
Oh yeah. I'm not a White Widow guy.
Right.
It's not my jam. I appreciate it. I've read like the first 6 issues, or one of the first 6 issues, like that arc, is because I got some of them in like pretty cheap, like not all that expensive, but like those books are expensive.
Yeah,
those books are pricey. So if you're looking for those, good luck, guys.
Exactly.
But they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. And that was when White Widow wasn't really known. So
I know that was back when White Widow was just really falling into vogue, and that was a lot of fun.
So obviously that's a lot of stuff. Obviously you got a YouTube, social media. What is all that stuff for those who want to know? Discord as well. So
well, mostly you can find me on Twitter or X at Comics Jacks, YouTube on Pocket Jacks Comics, and Pocket Jacks Comics on Facebook, as well as just Preston Poulter as an individual. So there you go. That's me. And Palace of the Golden Princess on Kickstarter,
which is in the description down below, that you can click on and check it out. Also, you can go to pretty much any interview in the last like 3-4 months, and you can find the link there too. So you can't miss it. And believe me, if everybody would back it, I would stop talking about it. So there you go. Until everybody backs it, in my audience, I refuse to stop talking about it.
Thank you.
Or unless you stop paying me, whichever comes first.
Exactly.
Anyway, all jokes aside, I do need to say this, and I will say it again. You have to support indie. I've been saying it for almost 4 years, guys. And what that looks like is backing people's campaigns. So obviously physically backing books. And when campaigns are live, throwing 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks, whatever you can afford or whatever the cover price is, backing those books is very, very important. Also sharing out campaigns matters right now heavily. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, however you share out your campaigns. That goes a long way. Talking about it on shows, talking about it on YouTube shows, engaging in content, engaging with people on social media platforms, very helpful. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And then as far also before even about me, also following people on social media matters heavy. And then also the other thing that's important is obviously, sharing out. If I don't already say this, I'm going to say it again, sharing out campaigns. But then I'm going to talk about me and what I do. Obviously, I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I got a lot of content coming out probably starting mid-October. I'm getting back to doing 30 to 35 videos released every single week.
Wow, awesome.
There's a lot of content coming.
Wow, I'm looking forward to sponsoring that. When's that going to happen?
Oh, I mean, it's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff's
Okay.
coming. A lot of micro content's coming. A lot of other stuff's coming. So be prepared. A lot of clips from interviews. And I'm really big into that. So there's a lot of stuff coming out in micro content. Super fun in that regard. A lot of TikToks are coming, so that's gonna be a blast.
Okay.
A lot of old interviews are actually being re-released from 6, 7 months ago, so you can recatch them because stuff gets buried on YouTube very, very quickly. So that's something to keep in the back of everybody's head. As well as some other cool content that has never been released is coming from another show, probably from the vault when I first started. So those interviews are going to be really rough, but that's like when I first started. So everybody's going to get a chance to hear me at the very beginning, and you could cringe with me, everybody. You can cringe with me. But I digress. I also have an eBay store, Pop Out and Make Honest Collectibles. I have pretty much anything you think is in my store as far as variants. I have some rare cards in there. I have some other cool stuff. I have a Deion Sanders Coach Prime card in my eBay store. So if you're rooting for Colorado, and then they're gonna do great. They're gonna do great on Saturday, everybody. So yes, I have those in my store, and so you can check out my store. And if you're looking for rare books, I got them.
Awesome.
A lot of sectors. And then that's pretty much everything I got. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I got as I stated, and I'm gonna give you the final word.
Thanks so much for the interview. Look forward to coming back for Pals 4.
Well, we're gonna happily have you back for Pals 4, and I don't think I could have said that any better myself, everybody. And that is a wrap.